Unit 10, Section 2, Nets of Solid Figures. You can see by the visual that we're going to do some sort of work with shapes in an interesting way. So let's get started. So a net is the term used to describe what a 3D shape would look like if you opened it up and laid it flat. It is basically the plan or map of a solid figure. The net is extremely helpful when finding the lateral surface area and the surface area, which is in the next section. Basically because when you stretch it out the way you open it up, you can see every shape, and then you can figure out the area of each of those shapes and then add them together. You want to keep practicing drawing these nets and identifying them, because that's really going to strengthen your ability to do well in the next section, which is where you're finding the surface area or the lateral surface area. All right, so let's take a look at a visual. You can see here on the net of the rectangular prism, what's really cool is the coloring helping to show you that those are the different shapes. You see one of them in this figure, but we know that there's always the opposite one creating the 3D. So basically there's just two of each type, and then they would each have their own area, and you would add that up. With a pyramid, you can tell that there's the square in the middle, and then there's a triangle coming out of each of the sides of the square, which of course would gather up to create that vertex at the top. The cylinder and the cone are interesting because they have the circles, and circles are a little bit different when it comes to unwrapping them. They stay a circle. So this is a circle, and it's really just going to stay what it is. And the part here in the middle is going to be your area that like rolls up to make the cylinder part of that. So for a cylinder, we know that it's going to have the two circles and then the long rectangle, and you will really begin to recognize these, and they'll feel much more familiar to you. And then the cone is definitely unusual because what we're doing is we have this little vertex here, so we have to make sure that the cone will roll together, join sides here at the line of connection, and it's going to create the circle as the base. All right, so let's see an example. So first you might be asked to identify the solid giving the net. So if we look at this, we see a circle, another circle, and then a rectangle in the middle. Well, very similar to what we just saw. So we know that that means that it is a cylinder. Okay, so we just recognize the cylinder. Now it says sketch the net of each solid and label the measurements given. All right, so without looking back, I'm going to see if I can. Why don't you pause it and see if you can draw a cone? And then go ahead and see if you did it correctly. All right, I kind of started before I paused it there, but if you look at the circle, that's at the top, and then you've got this very interesting shape that basically creates the vertex and then will roll up to become the cone. I didn't draw it to scale for sure. That circle's a little small. But then it says label the measurements. So you would need to put the 47.1 for the part that forms the cone and the 14 for the base. And actually the 14 is only the radius of the base, so the whole base, the diameter would be 28. All right, you have an exit ticket to try. Take your time and good luck.